Want to know how to talk to your adult child about alcohol abuse? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're going to be talking about adults having conversation when one is technically the parent about alcohol abuse. In this video, we're going to be talking about alcohol abuse and how it's affecting young people once they hit early adulthood. Maybe even they're not young adults, maybe they're older adults, and that role of parents with the adult children and what kind of conversations you can have to try to hopefully empower them and help them to make better decisions while still not fully telling them what to do. That's the struggle with adult children, is you can't just tell them what to do. They are adults, and I know that's hard. So many parents spend so many hours, so many years praying for their children, their adult children, and they wish that they could have more of an influence or sometimes even just a say in their lives because they see the children doing things that they know could lead them down dangerous and destructive paths. As a parent of an adult child, you may be trying to observe what's going on. You're concerned there might be some alcohol abuse there, but you might not actually have proof that they are abusing alcohol. I mean, maybe they had one bad night, maybe they got drunk once or twice, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily abusing it. And you might just have some concerns. Now, on the flip side, you might have a child who, no, they're absolutely abusing it. They're doing things that are very destructive. They're starting to have potential legal problems, and you've got to help them get a handle on it. Those two conversations could be slightly different from each other. Let's first discuss what type of a conversation you would have if you don't really know what's going on with your child and with alcohol abuse, and then we'll switch to what kind of a conversation to have if your child is for sure, without a doubt, abusing alcohol. So many times when people hit adulthood, they will experiment with alcohol. It can become a social thing for some people to go out and drink and, have a few drinks here and there, get together with roommates, do some drinking. And it can sometimes go too far too quick, especially if a person is not prepared. So parents need to have conversations that are proactive with their children to get them ready for this, if that's a type of environment that the child is going to be going into. I don't drink. I mean, people that actually saw the BBC show about my family, which is here on this channel, know that our family isn't a family that drinks. Nowadays, there are more and more people who are choosing not to drink, and there's various reasons for why they don't do that. But a lot of the young people don't actually know that. They don't know that there are many people, for health reasons and social reasons and psychological reasons, that are thinking that maybe they don't want to have a drinking lifestyle. And you can explain that to your young adult and help them understand that there is data that proves that there's less people drinking that are young adults than they might think there are. Socially, people act like it's just the norm. It's a rite of passage. It has to happen, but it doesn't. And so maybe we need to empower them. Now, that type of conversation, honestly, is best had before the child is an adult, but you could still have the conversation when the child reaches adulthood if need be. You have to examine your roles when you're thinking of having a conversation with your child about something that relates to their personal decisions. Once your child reaches adulthood, technically all decisions really are on them, and we can't make the decisions for them unless they are still living in our home and they are still being provided for by us. Well, then they're not really living as adults. Then we can make rules and all that kind of stuff. But if they're off on their own, then really they are taking care of everything themselves, and we have to make sure that we keep that boundary really clear. But we still have a role in their life as parents. I wrote a book years ago called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. And in this book, you see parents talking to their adult son about some issues with him and his academics and his planning for things in his life. And he happens to be living still at their house, but they have a conversation with him that ends up empowering him to make a change. And that might be a book you want to look at, because those types of conversations could be very beneficial. And just understanding what your role is in the life of an adult child could be also very beneficial. When my oldest child was 20 years old, I asked him, okay, so, you've been off doing things like doing mission work for our church and working and all this kind of stuff, and you're in college. And so what is my role in your life? How do you see that? And I was interested to see what he would say. And he said, well, I guess your role is to give me advice and to make sure that I don't do anything stupid. And I said, well, I can't make sure that you don't do anything stupid, but I absolutely can give you advice. And when I see something going wrong, I can bring it to your attention. So having a conversation with a young adult about what your role is and what their role is in the relationship, now that you're both adults, could be a really good segue to, and can I bring up something? Just in case I never told you before, I just want to make sure that you know this piece of advice that could make a big difference in your life. Then you could talk to that child that you think might be experiencing some alcohol abuse or could go in that direction. You could say, be really careful. Set yourself these parameters. Only drink in these places this much, and decide what things you will and won't have. And just so you know, when you get into this kind of stuff, it almost always leads to the harder liquor. And so then you could end up having a problem. So make sure that you preface it with, who am I and who are you? And yeah, I'm supposed to give you advice, and that's really all I can do. I just want to give you some advice if it could help you, because I don't want you to be sorry later that you didn't get it. And you know what? After you give the advice, they don't have to agree with you. They don't have to talk about it more, nothing. They will listen to you, especially if you stop talking about it after the advice. So don't lecture, don't try to beat them down about it, nothing like that. Now, if you have an adult child who you know for sure is abusing alcohol, then probably what you need to do is still have the conversation about roles, and then say, I really care about you, and that's just going to be something that is always going to be there, no matter if we're both adults or if I'm old and you're younger, and it doesn't matter. I'm always going to be concerned for you and care about you. And I've noticed that lately you've been spending a lot of time drinking. Maybe there's depression going on, maybe something else is happening, but do you need help with that? Do you need help with any of this? Because sometimes if you just have a person who, just knows what's going on in your life, and maybe they can help you with some things, then you wouldn't be resorting so much of your attention to alcohol, because it can be really detrimental to you. And I just don't want that to happen. And then you can always follow it up with, take it for what it's worth. I'm not in control of you or anything, and I don't ever expect to be. And I love you no matter what. I just wanted you to know that where it comes from for me is just my total heart, because I care so much. And I've just seen a couple of things that have got me concerned. And as a mother, my heart, just felt like I needed to mention something to you. When you're talking to your adult children, you have to just give it as if it's advice, because you can't tell them what to do. Like I said, especially if they don't live with you. Giving advice is a loving thing to do. It may not be always taken well. Keep that in mind. You'll want to probably be kind of prayerful about the words that you use as you're phrasing this with your children. But it is something that they won't forget, especially if it was truly done in love, caring, and just preparing them for future success. There are a lot of things that can help you with your adult child, just understanding their tendencies, their personalities, how to help them avoid all kinds of traps in life. But one of the things you absolutely want to make sure that you end up not falling into is an expectation trap with them that could lead to damaging your relationships. There is a video that's like a full-length class called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. It's on this channel. If you watch that video next, I think it could probably really help you as you examine how you might fall into traps in that relationship and how you can keep it in a place where you're pointing things in a good direction. Go to The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success now. I'll see you there.